Good day, everyone. This is Patrick from EasyFX Code Trading System, and it's Saturday, the 1st of July 2023, and it's the weekly technical analysis for the Euro, the cable, and the Aussie dollar for the first week of July. And looking across all these majors, the similar theme is that they've been continuing to retrace lower until Friday, where they made a good recovery for all the pairs, and especially the pound, where it did not drop too far, and only the Aussie has been suffering and has retraced deeper than all the rest, but also managed to recover on the Friday. And that's only because since the Wednesday, they've been very bearish with all the central bankers' speeches in Portugal, where all of them basically had the same theme, where they are still hawkish on their tightening of their monetary policy, and they all want to bring inflation under control. So since the Wednesday, it has been falling further until the Friday with the PC price index from the US, where it met expectations, met the forecast, and it seems flat and maybe slightly lower overall for a slowdown. So it could be some recovery from that, and just to bounce on the Friday after already a weak sell-off, a strong sell-off, and overextended move already for all the major pairs. So let's review last week's news, and those were the two major highlights, and looking forward for this week, for the news for this week, to see what's in store for the first week of the new quarter and for the second half of the year. All right, for last week, the major news was basically the central bankers' speeches for their conference in Portugal, and one by one, all of them had basically the same message. All were hawkish and tightening their monetary policies, and they all want to bring inflation under control. So from Lagarde to Bailey from Bank of England, and Powell, of course, all had similar messages, and all the majors suffered as a result, with the dollar rising and getting a boost from Wednesday until Friday, where the core PC price index figures came out. They met expectation, but overall for the year was slightly lower for the year, but market took it as a positive, and after an overextended sell-off already, they managed to boost the market back up to recover somewhat. Meanwhile, there was also other US news, with the consumer confidence also very bullish on the market and economy, and also reflected in the final GDP figure, which was also higher than expected. And for Australia, their CPI figure came in slightly lower than expected, so that could help the RBA coming up this week in their rate decision, where they expected not to hike after their previous month's surprise rate hike already. And on Wednesday, there's the meeting minutes from the FOMC's last meeting last month, And a couple of ISM PMIs for manufacturing and services. But the main highlight also for the week will be the non-farm payroll report on Friday with forecast of 222,000 jobs to be added compared to the previous month where there was a major surprise with a significant increase. So we'll see whether the jobs market is still robust and strong, which will be a concern for the Fed. All right, we'll see whether the US dollar is able to continue its recovery as the major currencies are continuing their retracement. Let's move back to the analysis. So let's start with the euro, where after the previous week, Friday, after a test of the 55 EMA and a bounce back up, it recovered somewhat until Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, that's where all the hawkish speeches from the central bankers started to drive the markets down for over the next couple of days, and until Friday, where it did test the daily 55 again, managed to find some support from there and bounce back up with the US PCE price index figure. So it's we'll see whether there's going to be further continuation move to retrace further. Probably possible test of the 108 round figure at the 38 fib retracement. And it's not a significant pattern on this short few weeks, but there is a small head and shoulders chart pattern forming here, and this could be invalidated if this price continues to climb and breaks above the high of this potential right shoulder, and if it does breaks above it, then this head and shoulders will be invalidated. But however, if it's unable to break out higher and fails, and then it could dip down further, and if it goes past the daily 55 EMA, then it's possible that it will come down to retest the 38 fib. All right, so we'll have to watch the early part of next week to see how far the euro can recover. And on the weekly time frame, it's closed as a doji, so still indecision and could go either way, could swing either way. And there is this previous swing low, which could act as intermediate resistance, where it did test it before on the way down. So 55 EMA is still in interim support just below the 50 fib. And the next support at the 38 fib with the 108. And of course, the major support right at the 21 fib. along with the rising 200 EMA. We may be able to remove this zone here for now. So remove that. Okay, so let's see if it's going to consolidate further for this week and compare this with the US dollar index. Here's the DXY, where in an inverse fashion, it's similar to the euro. After a pullback, managed to find support and then bounce from the 102 level and managed to climb all the way back up to 103. Spiked through it on the Friday, but then fell back down to pull back. Still finding support at the daily 55 EMA. We'll see if that's able to hold this coming week. But overall, it's still consolidating within the larger triangle here. So it needs to break out higher back above the 103 to test the daily 200 and the 21 FIB retracement area. Still should be strong support from the 50 FIB as well as this lower trend line. Let's take a look on the weekly time frame, and just as the euro, which was doji, is closed as a spinning top, small spinning top, and blocked by the weekly 55 EMA above. So it's could still be consolidating between these zones, but it's trying to creep back up to the 103. It needs to break the 103 and the weekly 55 EMA. Let's also take a look on the weekly time frame. The monthly time frame, since June has already ended, and it managed to bounce from the support level and still consolidating within the previous month's candle. So it could be still some more consolidation before any breakout either way. Okay. So resistance is still the same area, and interim support now at the 50 FIB. Then below that, the 62 FIB, that's it has to be major support now. Let's remove this one here. Okay. All right, let's move back to the other pairs. Moving on to the cable, where made the most significant recovery on the Friday, and it only dipped back down to the 786 FIB of the previous swing retracement and reversal here. Managed to climb back out from the 126 back into 127.00. So well supported by this rising trend line here. And makes this a very strong support zone. We take a look on the weekly time frame. It also closes a doji, and after falling off from the weekly 200 EMA, so finding support from the trend line. So that's a critical support now. If we do move this retracement fib here, has only retraced back down to just above the 50 fib retracement area. So that should be the major support here. And resistance is still up here at the swing high. Okay, let's move this up here and intermediate resistance. All right, we'll see if there's any follow through this week, whether it's able to break back up above and perhaps retest the recent swing high, last month's high. If it fails, then it's going to test the trend line again, and if it does break through, it will target the 50 fib. And even further down, if it goes down to the daily 55 EMA. Okay. So all the major currencies this week are exposed to both the major US news, the FOMC meeting minutes, and the non-farm payroll report on Friday. Let's move on to take a look at the Aussie dollar. And this week is a critical one for the RBA's rate decision. So they have already increased rate the previous month and in a surprise move. And they are not expected to raise interest rate this time round, especially when last week's CPI was lower than expected. And it has fallen all the way down to 66 round figure, past this fib support zone of 62 fib. And the next intermediate resistance is going to be at the 38 fib retracement. The major resistance now is going to be at 68 with the 21 fib retracement. And I think we could probably remove this zone here. And let's take a look at the weekly time frame. It's also a spinning top. So between 66 and 67, still consolidating. We'll see which way this week is going to move with the RBA decision looming. So let's move this major support at 66 now. And perhaps the intermediate zone at 67, where the daily 55 EMA is. Okay. So RBA will be a key focus for the Aussie dollar on Tuesday, and then followed by major US news towards the end of the week. Okay, so do check out my other videos on spot gold and dollar yen as well. Have a safe week and a good trading week, and cheers for now.